Okay, let's take a little break here while we wait, and we'll see what's happening with. I'm trying to look on my own, and there is so much noise in the universe right now that it's very hard for me to just look at it by myself. So I have to go with each question as it's posed to me. So, I was trying to look, I'm very good when I'm directed at something, like a very specific question, then there's no problem. But there are so many questions looming right now. And the reason I called this my psychic state of the union was because tomorrow the fake state of the union will be happening. Um, let's just wait for another minute or two. Go ahead and submit your request to speak, and I will put you on with your question. And we'll see what's what. But I mean, there's so much going on right now that it's almost hard to keep track of how many things. It's almost like they're just throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing what sticks, you know? It's almost like that. All right, so let's take a look here. Who wants to go first with a question? I will give my point of view after we start doing some questions, but go ahead and submit the request to speak. I will put you on and we'll start digging into whatever this is that we're living through. We're in a point of history now that maybe you think you didn't sign on for, but clearly we all agreed to come in during this time frame. So you can't blame other people. All right. My name is Carla Barron. Many of you have seen my shows. I've been a psychic for quite a long time, also a medium. It's funny, when I start doing a reading, I had a reading from a new client last week, and they were like, they were so surprised that I started going into like a medium reading, and I could actually communicate with those that have crossed over. They were so surprised. They didn't know. So, I figure that you guys do your research and you know who I am, and that's why you're here. All right. So, who wants to ask the first question? Or do you guys just want me to talk? Go ahead and submit the request to speak, because you can't come on here unless I approve it. So go ahead and submit your question. Who wants to go first? Nobody wants to go first. You're all scared. You're all scared. All right, hold on. All right, Catherine. Catherine, what do you want to take a look at first? Catherine. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I did that again.
All right.
Okay. So, will the United States ultimately end up helping Ukraine, or will they totally abandon them?
Okay. The question itself is flashing for me, so that tells me that that's not quite how it's going to go down. What I am seeing is it was almost like a setup.
Yeah.
Um, it was a setup to embarrass and humiliate. And it had nothing to do with the Ukraine or that war or what's happening or their fight. It was to establish, who was the bully and who was in control of the room. Except it didn't quite work out like Donald Trump had planned. I think the question, because it's flashing, shouldn't be whether or not they receive aid from the United States. I think we need to ask, why did that whole situation come about in the first place?
Okay. Why
You know,
did?
because I mean, it seems ridiculous that, you know, we have Zelensky coming in to the White House and that whole thing happening. And then Zelensky just took control of the room, you know? So why did that happen at all?
Mm,
Because it didn't need to.
right.
He could have Donald Trump could have quietly walked away from that and just blamed it on, oh, I'm too busy playing golf or whatever the hell he's doing. And you know, and he could have just talked his way out of it, sort of. But it was all planned,
Well, it makes
where,
sense.
the sense that I'm getting is that, the whole thing was orchestrated to humiliate Zelensky,
Mm,
to cause public humiliation, because that's how Donald Trump felt when it was delivered to him. So it was almost like, we're in the schoolyard and the bullies are having their little fight in the schoolyard, and everybody's watching to see who wins. But I don't believe it had anything to do with aid or how much money they're going to get to continue this war. Or I think it was a political brouhaha. And I think the only reason that event happened was to have it on a public stage and for Donald Trump to scream, I am king and you bow before me, and that's it.
mm,
I don't get that aid had anything to do with this. In fact, I don't even think that, and I'll look at it again, but what I'm seeing is that Zelensky doesn't even want aid from the United States now, because the price to be paid for that is too high.
right.
I don't think he wants it anymore.
Mm,
I think he's perfectly fine on his own with his other allies. He's good. And I think he saw that the snake in the room had other intentions, and I think it was a fact-finding mission, and they were trying to uncover certain details. And I'm going to make a statement for Russia. That whole thing was set up, number one, to cause humiliation, number two, to gather whatever intel they could gather for Russia, for that side of things. Because I think what's happening is that Russia has been piping in funds sort of underground to us, or not to us, to Donald Trump. Um, Whether we as a people will ever see any of that money, as well as I do, we will never see that money. So we're all on our own now. Um, a lot of, in fact, a lot of my clients are moving out of the country now. They're just moving, they're leaving, and they're taking their chances somewhere else, in another country. Um, I honestly think that that whole situation was set up as a public stage to, you enter my house, you enter the White House, you come in my house, and you don't bow before me, you'll see how it goes. And I think that's what it was. Did you have another question about that?
no, that's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, does make sense.
And I hope your health is okay, Catherine.
Getting better, one day at a time.
Okay. Well, I wish you well and sending over healing vibes towards you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, honey. All right. So let's see who else has a question here. All right. I invited somebody named Tina. Tina.
My question is what are your thoughts on what's going on in the area of aviation and all of the happenings with plane crashes and whatnot?
Okay. And welcome. I don't
Thank
think
you.
I've seen you here before. Are you a follower?
I am, but I've
Well,
not been
then,
here before.
well, welcome to you. All right. So let's take a look at the aviation fiasco and what's going on there. Let me see what that's all about and see whether that plays into just circumstance or negligence, or let me just see what that is. Just relax. Oh, okay. Okay. Just got this weird image. I almost okay. This is I'm going to make a statement I haven't made before. Um, Let me just double check that though to make sure. Okay. Okay. I almost get like they were trying to uh, go after the Department of Transportation, almost like a you did us wrong during the entire election process, and we're gonna go after you now. It's almost like all the enemies are just lining up like 10 little Indians, and they're just picking them off. And I get that this has to do with a personal gripe against the Department of Transportation because they made some statements. I can say the person's name, but they were clearly, um, Buttigieg was constantly on media going after them. And this is the first time I'm seeing it from that angle, from that psychic angle. I'm seeing that they almost targeted him. Like, oh, you want to talk about us? Okay, we're going to destroy everything that you tried to build while you were in office, and we're just going to get rid of it. And all of these decisions I get had nothing to do with any type of foresight or planning or trying to save money. These are personal gripes. This has zero to do with saving money. These are personal gripes against the enemies of the states who were talking some crap about them during the election process, and the ones that were most visible on whatever network. That's the first time I'm seeing it from that angle. Does that make any sense to you, Miss Tina?
A little bit.
I mean, it's not all because of that, but once you start going after a personal gripe like that, then and you're dismantling things, I don't get that it has anything to do with saving money. I get that this was a personal gripe against that department, and they decided that they don't need any money, that they're ridiculous, and they didn't even think about it. They had no plan. no one actually sat down and did the numbers or thought, hey, if we get rid of portions of, the aviation situation here, that we're not going to be able to function and accidents are going to start happening.
Right.
And I don't think that they planned on that part of it. There was no foresight, there was no looking into the future on the timeline, thinking ahead, hey, if we do this, then this will happen. They're just going after people, picking them off. So, in light of their childish, schoolyard antics here, people are dying and they're not thinking about it. They have no guilt. They're just going through with a bulldozer, just, breaking down everything that they can and thinking that, oh, well, you said a bad thing about me, so you're done. And it literally is that. And people are dying because these people are 2-year olds and they're on whatever sort of drugs or alcohol or health issues or whatever's mentally wrong with them. They're not thinking ahead. They're making decisions based on impulse and whoever they like and whoever they don't like. And it's definitely, you know uh, a kingdom versus a democracy, and they're just making decisions based on who they like and who they don't like, and they're not even thinking about the consequences, not at all. um, Give me another question along that same line, though, to finish that answer, because that's the first time I'm seeing it from that angle. I didn't realize it was because of that. I thought it was just because they were trying to pocket the money. This isn't money.
No.
This is a hate crime. They're going after people they don't like.
Well, I'm in that. I'm a flight attendant, so I'm in that area,
Hmm.
and um, so I didn't really see it from everything I've read and everything that's been, more or less delivered to us when we asked that question, about cutting the budget for air traffic control, cutting this, cutting that. Um, it wasn't people that had tenure in that arena. It was probationary people. So people that hadn't even been in the job 6 months.
I see.
And
So,
so,
well, they.
when everything
I
starts
think those,
happening, it's not, and it was,
but
a lot of stuff
I
about.
think the decisions were being made though based on what I said, but then the actual delegation of who's going to do the cutting,
Mhm.
those were the department heads, and they just decided to get rid of people that were early on.
Right.
I mean, they decided, you know, okay, well, we only have so much money. So the budget was cut, but I get that this all happened because of personal gripes.
Okay.
It wasn't because the airline industry is just, it's it's not important and we don't need it and we're going to restructure the whole thing. It wasn't that. It was because somebody said something against their regime and they're going after those people. And so all the people that maybe just started are getting axed, but I don't think it's over with that yet. I
Okay.
see a second tier of firings, and I almost see that I see airlines being consolidated and merging, where it's going to be one big airline. That's what I'm seeing. Almost as if this was a plan where they're going to get a cut of the airline industry, which makes a fortune at the top, and they are going to control the financial portfolio for air travel. And I don't even think it was about politics. It was about this stupid, you said something bad about me, and they went after that. It's almost like bullies in the schoolyard, like you got up in their face and now they're going to take you down. So I honestly think that it's not any more than that. And these poor people and your industry is being affected, and many other industries that are supplement industries to the airline industry. In fact, the guy that bought my car works for he works for Southwest, and they just made huge cuts over there, and his job is still there because he's a supervisor, but only because he's a supervisor. So I see in the future, it's going to take about 18 months to 2 years, but I see where deals are on the table where a lot of the smaller airlines will go bye-bye and a big airline will consume them. Is there any talk like that going on right now?
Yeah, a little bit, yes.
And
Because all these crashes and stuff have been more or less happening at the regional level, not at the mainline level. Like, the DC thing, that was a regional
right,
airline of American. It
right,
wasn't mainline.
right.
The Alaska was a regional airline. Again, it wasn't mainline.
Well, again, that may support the argument and the prediction that I'm seeing where major airline, like, this will all come, like there will only be two major airlines in the future, kind of thing. I almost see this happening where it'll be under like national control, and these smaller airlines will go bye-bye because they'll be absorbed, and I see them being swallowed up by one airline. And I think that was kind of the plan all along. Like, why is this being, diversified? Why are all these separate airlines existing? It's not it's not uh, it's not within a cohesive unit or something. They're giving all kinds of weird excuses. But what I see happening is this huge, like, it'll all be controlled by one government, by one entity. And it's not just the airlines either. I think the next one that I'm seeing is other divisions of transportation, like trucking. And I still get that it's going to go under one umbrella, and they'll have different divisions within that one umbrella. And I think they wanted a national airline
That's interesting.
to go with their national, profile, to go with their nationalism type of thinking. And I honestly, it has more to do with control than money. This is about power and control. How many, let's harken back to the board game of Monopoly. That's basically what this is. And how many of these things can we control? How many properties can we control? But it started off because somebody said the wrong thing. Maybe Pete went on too many, interviews and badmouthed them while, the election was going on, and they decided that he was on the hit list, so to speak. And his department is going to pay for that now. I didn't see it from that angle until you asked the question. So a lot of times it has to do with the question itself, and then it points me at what it is. I have no stake in it one way or the other, but the angle I'm seeing it from has to do with almost like a nationalism kind of feel. You know, how many
Mm-hmm.
things can we control and put under that one umbrella? And I think they're going after trucking. I think they're going after shipyards and shipping. I think all of that will come into play. They're going to own all the ports. These will not be state run anymore. I think there's going to be some sort of a move towards all of these will be under this one national umbrella.
Well, especially with like global entry, just different entries into the United States and trying to control all that. I can see that.
And that's the reason they're going to give, but the real reason is how many pieces on that game board can we own? That's the real reason. You know, we
Yeah.
need to have everything be American all the time. So it'll be, maybe American Airlines will survive because it's named American Airlines. I mean, but other than that, I see that they will rename things like they've been renaming certain geography, and this, and they'll give the excuse that they're trying to streamline and make it more efficient. And it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with how many properties, how much of how much of transportation, because transportation will be everything as far as trade. They're more interested in that. So they're going to control waterways, ports of entry, and that's it's more that than it's about, people and uh, people, immigrants coming into this country. It was more about controlling the ports of entry.
Okay.
So usually, if I'm shown something from that angle, it tends to work on that level then. So we need to start seeing it through that viewfinder. And if you have a job at an airline right now, just make sure that you're invaluable. Make sure that you secure yourself there. Try to
Okay.
go for upper level management or something. Where because I'm seeing that they're going to do a second sweep through and they're going to cut jobs a second time. It's not just the first one.
Okay.
I hope what I'm saying is wrong. I hope it's wrong. But was there another question within that you wanted to ask?
No, not really. I um
What
just
was
wondering where it
what was
goes because since I'm on a plane several days out of the week.
well, and be careful, please. Well,
Yes.
I mean, it's everybody for themselves at this point, but be careful. I'm so glad I'm not flying anymore because I don't know if I could handle the stress,
Right.
you know, and I'm not flying, if I were filming right now and had to fly to all the places internationally where I was filming before, I don't know if I'd make it. Worrying every time I stepped on a plane whether or not I'd survive. So I'm so sorry that's happening towards you.
That's
But
all right.
I mean, that question is their plan. Will they actually get away with it? part of what I'm seeing is that there's going to be a dismantling of this administration before any of the real stuff starts coming down. Okay. So
Okay.
that's part of what this podcast was going to be about. Okay. So we're going to get into that with other questions, but that's worst case scenario, what I told you.
Alrighty.
That's their plan. I don't think they're going to get that far with it. I think there's going to be a revolt against it. And if we have a civil war, it's going to be because, things just got out of control. But I think I see an event happening before that where it may not be necessary. So I'm hoping that some of the questions that are coming forward in this podcast, you guys will ask that question. Let me know if you have another one, but welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Okay, honey. All right. So let's see who else we have. Rain. Are you there? Rain.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm trying to get in, I'm seeing it from a different angle now. So that's the thing about being a psychic and looking on a future timeline, is that I have to get out of my own ideas what I think is going to happen, and I have to look at it from another angle and go, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think it was going to go that way. And that's why I know I'm in psychic mode, because it disagrees with what I thought it would be.
Well,
You know?
I have a little bit of a validation for you
Yeah.
on one of your previous feeds that you did. And you've been talking about this for some time, about there having been some sort of a really dirty backroom deal between Trump and some other world power, some alliance, something with the money and the things. I was just on a Zoom call on Friday with a group of spiritual people who are all connected to one spiritual person who happens to be a global peace ambassador who was hosting the call. His name is Patrick McCollum. He's amazing. And he had a lot of deep insight into all the things that have been going on since the 1970s with the Russians and their sort of cyber warfare, for lack of a better term. And he feels very genuinely that the Russians are heavily involved in all of this, and that it's sort of a deal that's going to go wrong in many, many ways, because of the control that the Russians are seeking over Ukraine and the control of the global dollar and currency in general changing, and many, many other things. So for some time, I've been getting blips on my own radar, a whole lot of signs, things that I've been reluctant to look into, but that you have been sort of validating all along in your discussions. And one thing that just keeps coming up for me, especially now that this planetary alignment has passed, is something you said about that powerful female influence, possibly Hillary Clinton, possibly something else. But I'm wondering if part of this deal with the Russians, if that is the thing that is going to come to light, and if this is the thing that woman is going to bring forward.
Okay. So let's simplify your question, though, because
Okay. It's a lot. It's loaded.
It's layered in many parts. All right. So let me just look to see if a woman is instrumental in being the ultimate spycraft, if you will. And this is where a lot of the underpinnings are happening. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see if a woman is the reason why. Again, you know, Hillary is on one side of it, but I think the person handing over information is Melania.
Yeah, I just got the chills on that one. I think.
Yeah, I think Hillary is aware of. Um, I think she's got her hands in some other things in case, it's almost like these in case scenarios that she's trying to bolster up. Okay, if he goes this route, we have to have this in place. Like, I think it's more about that and saving our country and saving the world at large than it is about taking down one man and his ridiculous, you know,
Right.
beliefs in himself and his need for being a king this lifetime. All right, so I think that already I'm seeing information and intel being handed over, and this has been going on. This was going on before the election actually happened. And I think she's being a double agent. I'm just going to make that statement. I think she, puts on a good face and puts on the power suit or whatever, and she goes into her meetings. But and she's got intel that's being taken and given to the Russians. And I think a lot of our information has been compromised now. So, as a nation, I think we're being. I see a. This has been. It's almost like there's a rat in the rafters, and the rat is like, chewing apart at the at the cross beams, and the whole thing is going to come down soon because little bits and pieces have been chewed away for a little over a year now. And a lot of very sensitive information has been handed over. A lot of that sensitive information is on Donald Trump. And
Yeah.
that's why he's got his hands and his feet tied. He's a prisoner of that whole situation. And he knows it. He agreed to it so that he could, in the face of the public, he could save face and he could pretend to be president. But his
Yep.
hands and his feet are tied. They have stuff on him that is concrete. And it was either we take you out or you play it our way and you shut up and smile and go in front of the cameras and do your thing and you'll get taken care of.
Yep.
And I just don't feel he had any other choice,
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
would
not
agree with that.
defending him. I am not defending that guy at all, but
I know.
it would have been certainly easier for them to just take him out.
And I have one other question
Yeah.
because I feel that the timeline is probably March, April on a lot of this, or some of it coming out.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and I have been for a while, if Trump if the stuff that they have on him is connected to Epstein.
Okay. Just relax and breathe. Let's see if Epstein is really the issue. Okay, there he is. The answer to that is that's not really the important part of this, but in the Epstein family affair over there, there was, they stumbled upon some information because somebody talked too much. And I think that's why Epstein was taken care of the way he was.
Yeah.
And it's all about intel. It's all about, you know, the price of information and how important is that information and the exchange of information. It has little to do with money and more to do with power. So, you know, I think dealing with you know, smudging the lines like he was with all of those activities. I think if you knew too much and you even mentioned that you were going to say something about it, or like you got angry one day and you said something, I think that marked you. I think you ended up on a list. And I think that's what happened there. I don't think it's because of his association or the fact that he's on that list, you know, because he certainly had dealings with him. But I don't get that that's why this is happening or why his hands and feet are tied, why Trump's hands and feet are tied at this point.
Okay.
I see that it's something much bigger. It was a deal that went bad and Trump reneged on it. He made a deal, and I get it was in the past. It's on the timeline in the past. He made a deal, he reneged on the deal, or he didn't have the money to pay, or he didn't have the power to do anything about it, and he just made an excuse about it, and he ended up on that list because of it. So now he's been scraping and doing all this to try to get himself off that list.
Oh,
I
it makes
don't think
sense.
I don't think he's scared of going to prison. I think he's scared of being out of prison and not being the president. You know, at least this way he has people, you know, doing his bidding and protecting him in some way.
Hmm.
I think he's scared to be let out, you know, and to walk around freely because he knows that there's a target on his back. He knows. He he made a deal with the devil, and he had no intention of paying for it.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
that's why this is happening. So he became president to save himself, but also to, you know, this is him sort of living his dream and, you know, going down in history as this historical figure that did all this stuff. I think that's why he has no moral compass when it comes to making decisions as a president. He he just does whatever comes into his head because it was never about being a good president. It was about going down in history as this shocking figure, you know, that turned the world on its head. And, you know, people are people are in shock because nobody acts like this. I mean, even dictators of other countries have some sort of protocol, some sort of decorum. You know, there's no
Or a
decorum
plan.
here. Yeah, there's no decorum here. There's no like, there's that's the thing. There's nothing really to figure out as far as his strategy because there is no strategy. There's however whatever his mood is that particular day. So he'll make a statement today, and tomorrow he'll wake up and make another statement that'll negate that statement if it serves him. He doesn't care because none of this is important. It's just important that he plays the role, that he walks on stage and he plays this role. And that's how he sees it. This was a great way to go out as far as he's concerned. He made his mark, and this was a great way to exit this world, you know, by going in and doing whatever he wanted, and a lot of this is personal gripes against countries, against individual diplomats, against leaders of other, you know, factions. It's and the amount of money is not that important to them because they will always have a lot of money. So it was never like the driving force. It was about power. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm
Okay.
off my soapbox, but hopefully some of that made sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for hosting these things. They really are helpful. And, um, I keep looking for the validations. And when I see them, I'll send them your way.
Please do. Thanks for your questions. Okay,
You're
so
welcome.
let's see who else we have here. All right, Seer, Catherine, you had another question. Catherine, all right, hold on. Catherine, I added you back on. Catherine,
I'm here.
okay. You had
Okay, I had
another
a quick.
question?
I did. I had a quick question. Last time you had one of these get-togethers, you had mentioned Trump's health failing in March. Do you still see that happening?
All right, just relax. See what I see. Um, I just got this weird image. Before I say it out loud, let me verify it. Is what I just saw true? Yeah. All right. I'm just gonna say it because it's so weird that I'm just gonna say it. I almost feel like he's being poisoned from within. Like somebody's tainting his food or something's going on there. There's but it's like a slow, like just small amounts that build up over time kind of thing. I got this, and it was a very direct image of him being slowly poisoned by the food he's eating. So, is it an actual toxin that they're adding to his food? Let me look at that. Is this an actual toxin that is being added to his food without his knowledge? Yeah, it keeps showing somebody that he trusts, somebody that he trusts in his trusted circle is delivering this poison, this toxin. And it looks like it's something that you wouldn't notice in small amounts. But if it builds up over time, I'm going to have to look at that again. Hold on. It's such a weird thing. I'm not a conspiracy person, but let me just see what that is. Have you heard of anything like that? Anybody on this podcast heard of anything like that? Like there's some sort of a poison or a toxin that's being administered without his knowledge? Let me just look. Let me take a peek here. Is this true? Is this true? Is that what's happening? Is he being administered something that's toxic? Trump. Yeah, and it looks like something he has every day. Like, you know, like some people have, you know, the same juice every day or the same drink every day. It's something that he has every day. Something's going on. But it looks like it was introduced into his system slowly. So it's not something he's being injected with. It's something he's consuming. Let me ask again. Is he slowly being poisoned? You know, I'm just going to I'm going to leave it at that. It keeps giving me a yes. Okay? Somebody tell me I'm not insane. Somebody like say I'm not insane for just seeing that. I When I do these readings, I don't come in with any preconceived notions, and that is the first time I have ever seen anything like that. So he's being poisoned from within. That's what I keep hearing. It's a poison, it's a toxin from within. So something that's in his system every day is slowly killing him. I okay, I'm just going to say that. Catherine, does that help you at all? I don't know what else.
That's like a wow. Wasn't expecting that.
Well, I wasn't either.
I
Uh,
just thought he was
let's
just,
move on.
quietly.
I may see more about it as I look at another question.
Yeah.
So let me
I think I know what it might be.
because all of a sudden now his health, like it went from he was semi okay, he wasn't in good shape, but he was semi okay to he was declining rapidly.
Hmm.
So it went from semi okay to the next day declining rapidly.
Hmm.
I'm going to look at that again after I look at a couple of other questions. But Shara,
Hi, Carla.
hey, hun.
Hey,
So am I sounding like a complete lunatic tonight or what? I don't know
no,
what.
you know what he drinks? You know what he has all the time is Diet Coke. And the way I've read lots of novels and this and that, but cyanide you can put slowly in people's food or whatever, toothpaste, it eventually will kill them.
I did not know that. I haven't, although I haven't looked into that. It's not something that I needed to research. But how do you know this? How do you know that?
I read it, I heard it.
Oh,
I watch these mystery shows and this and that.
okay.
Maybe ask if that's what it is. I don't know.
Let me look because I definitely got it was something he was doing every day,
He drinks Diet Coke every day, they say.
and he was consuming it. And I get it was something he was consuming versus like, like an injection or something. It was something he was consuming.
Yeah.
It's in his bloodstream.
I saw some mystery TV show and this guy was killing his wife slowly with that. And then they did a DNA samples on her hair and stuff.
Wow. Okay. Let me take
Poisoning
a
it
look.
poisoning
Yeah,
is a big thing these days, I guess.
and I almost saw that, like, whatever this element or toxin was, I saw that it was something that was so subtle that you wouldn't pick up on it unless you tested directly for that particular item.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, let me look. Is that what's going on here? Slowly with cyanide. Let me just look. I mean, it's because whatever it is, it's going right to his nervous system. That's where it's hitting first. That's what I'm picking up. It's hitting the nervous system first. So it's causing a degrade of his musculature, autoimmune, and his mental state. So I get that the nervous system is the delivery. That's where it's being like it's harbored in that, in the nervous system. That's what I'm getting. I don't know this, so you're going to have to tell me. Is cyanide something that you would discover like in someone's, I'm assuming it wouldn't be in the digestion. You wouldn't see a stomach issue from it,
No,
correct?
no. I think it starts just doing weird stuff to your body. I don't know all the details. I
Well,
do know that it goes.
somebody has to go look this up before our podcast is over. Somebody go look that up and tell me, because I definitely get that it targets the delivery system in the human body. I get that it's the nervous system.
All I know is that it's very hard to detect in small amounts, and it just eventually,
Well,
zaps you.
the thing that I saw was that it collects over time, and it's almost like something that would be stored, like it collects over time, where that's where it starts doing the real damage. But I get it sort of eats away at the nervous system. That's what I was picking up. It's almost eating away at it, where he's not even aware of it, you know. Um,
It's very hard to detect. That's what I understood. It's very hard to
well,
detect.
now we're going to have all of my scientists that are inside the podcast here. You guys have to go look that up now. I mean, I'm seeing what I'm seeing, but let me look at the timeline, though. I think we should look at the timeline for March 2025. Will we see evidence of any of this prediction about Donald Trump's health, or the reasons why the Zelensky thing happened the way that it went down? Are we going to see any of these things manifesting, or coming on the scene and explaining all of this in the month of March, in this month? Okay. Wow. Okay. We're going to get a buildup here of the the anger and the bitterness that is building right now with just various people that have been in contact with this government, with the United States. I mean, I'm just getting that that's going to start taking hold. I would have to say it's happening now. It's happening now. Um, it's funny we were talking about Zelensky because he's coming up here as an aggressor. Even though he's all about peace, I think that if he's pushed hard enough, he'll fight back and fight back big. And I think he's got something on. Oh, he was given some information by our powers that be behind the scenes. This is where we have Obama. This is where we have Hillary Clinton. This is where we have these power players behind the scenes. He was given he was gifted some information. You know, in case of this, don't open until, it gets this bad kind of thing. Wow. It's happening now. I kept looking in the future on the timeline. It's not in the future, it's happening right now. I mean, this could be any hour of any day now. But Zelensky was gifted some information. That's why he's calm, because he's got stuff that's pretty powerful. He won't use it unless he's pushed, unless he's targeted, he's attacked. But he has it at the ready just in case. But we're the ones who gave it to him. And this is where I see Hillary coming in, Obama coming in, Bill Clinton coming in. These people are trying to protect the world from complete annihilation. And they have enough where they're giving it to the right people in power because they know it won't be abused or misused in some way. But it's in case of this, you can use it. It's happening right now, guys. Right now. We're there. We're not waiting anymore. We're there. It's happening now. So we're going to hear something any moment now because I see that the angry mob is forming in the background. I keep seeing this angry energy that's swirling around the White House and the whole. And why? Let me just say this because it's just so stupid. But why is, Elon living at the White House? What the hell? Why? How is that happening? All right, I just needed to say that. Did you have another question, Shara?
Yeah, I'm very curious about these Epstein issues and if what's going to be released. Because personally, I feel like nobody can really escape all of that. It's been so connected with all of them, all parties. And what's going to happen with that? Are we actually going to see anything of that
Let me
with
look.
this? Yeah.
I see a lot of money, a lot of payoffs happening. Certain judges are being paid off. Let me just look. Okay. Will the whole Epstein thing be unraveled for all of us to see? Yeah, I'm not getting that we'll ever really know all of it. A lot of that's being suppressed and burned. It's going away for good.
Well, that
It's
sucks.
mainly for the optics. It's not because it's so dangerous. It's mainly for the optics so they can operate the way they need to get whatever spoils or riches that they need to get, whatever power that they're looking to secure.
I just
I,
feel
I
bad for the victims, like.
well, let's talk P Diddy then. Let's talk
Oh,
about
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Let's do.
And the fact that he has my birthday is so embarrassing. So, I think that there are a lot of karmic threads that go on, but they come out when all of that is decided by the universe, when it is most appropriate for that information to be known by everybody. And sometimes you don't know all of it, you will only know just a piece. Even when I work on crime stuff, I'm on a crime scene, or some information has been buried and we're just, psychics are the only way we're going to be able to know any of it. I just think that right now in history, let me make this statement. Right now in history, the United States being a young soul country, power issues are one of the main lessons of a young soul. And it's very enticing, and it's very hard to eradicate that craving for power. It's such a drug. And those that are living with that intoxicating thing of power, that element of, I have to have more, I got a little bit, I have to have more now. It has been substituted as like this rite of passage, this thing, where if I'm powerful, then I did what I was supposed to in this lifetime. What they don't understand is that power will corrode from within. So I think that, Epstein and all that, I don't think Epstein started off with the idea of creating that God forsaken island of, you know, debauchery. Was the way I think he just started out going, I want to be famous. I want to hobnob with, famous people and money players and power mongers and world leaders. And I think it just sort of happened that he came into being enticed through, world of sex and drugs. And the more money you had, the more you could have anything you asked for. And you know he, nobody thought about the consequences of what that would mean, and whether or not they should do that. It was part of the world of being powerful. So, right or wrong, I mean, how many times in history have we gone through like Sodom and Gomorrah? Let's look that, let's look at other times in history where it 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 became necessary to destroy a people or a civilization in order to rebuild again with the new knowledge of, okay, we're not going to do that this time. And the United States is still a young soul country for the most part. So they're just learning those lessons, where we have Iran or Iraq or Egypt. Those are older countries with older souls. So they have already been through that passage. They've already gone through those soul levels. They don't need to learn that particular lesson. But it was the young souls that targeted them and tried to take what they had all their lives. They were targeted for something that was theirs. And they're defending, in their mind, they're defending what is theirs. So, I think, with money and power came greed, and it was addictive. And you got a little bit, you had to have more. And it got out of hand. And we became a capitalist society here. And yeah, we had a lot of money and a lot of resources, but it's gotten out of hand now. So, in some ways, if I'm just looking at an overview of this particular country and the souls that live here and the group of souls that are inhabiting this country, I'm glad that something is happening to break up this nonsense because they're assigning some sort of relevance to power. Like, that's the all to be all, and that's the thing you got to strive for. And that's what, I'll be remembered for. The thing is, in 100 years, you'll remember like the moments you had with somebody, like the 5 minutes you had with somebody, and you had an enlightening conversation or a conversation that made you feel special. Those are the things that are remembered by souls when they cross over. None of the rest of this is even going to matter. So I don't know why I go off on these tangents. You guys, sorry. I get started and then I don't stop. All right, let me see who else has a question here.
Thanks, Carla. I got to go make dinner.
Okay, Sweet Pea, thank you for joining.
Okay, bye.
Okay. All right, Michelle.
Yes, I'm here, Carla.
Hey, you. All right.
Hi.
So I'm assuming you've been listening. So
Yes, and I had a crazy question. Hearing you talk
any
about
crazier than what I've already been saying?
it might be a little crazy. When
Okay.
you said that Elon is living at the White House, and
Yeah.
then you said that um, Trump is being poisoned by somebody that he trusts, and then Elon, I keep seeing trying to get Trump to pull us out of NATO. I mean, does that have any correlation? Do you see where I'm going with this?
Um, I don't know who it is. From what I'm seeing, it's just I try to look at it like in a micro sense because I'm looking directly at Trump and I'm seeing something. A toxin is being introduced into his system and it's happening on a
Hmm.
daily basis. So, is it deliberate? Yes.
Hmm.
Um,
I keep seeing alienation, like alienating our country away from all the other countries. I
well,
don't know. It's
we're
just,
already there. That's happening today.
yes,
We're
yes,
already
that's what I'm seeing, and it's scary.
there. But the big thing that I'm seeing is that, um, I don't think Elon's after anything but Elon. So, whatever he can get out of this is more than what he had hoped for. So,
Well,
you
I'm
know,
thinking he's got a backdoor lead into Putin, maybe. I don't know. It's just crazy.
well, I mean, I certainly see that, this goes back before he won the election again or stole the election or however this
Yep,
situation happened.
I
You know,
definitely agree.
because I mean, we all know that Kamala Harris won. We all know
Mhm.
she won the election, and I'm sorry, she did.
Yes, I
And,
agree.
and yet, you know, if there are enough hands in the system,
Hmm.
anybody's identity can be stolen. Anybody's, you know, you always have to be looking over your shoulder. I don't care who you are.
That's so true.
And, even though they work so hard, they were noble of purpose. They had a nobility about them. Kamala has
Hmm.
a nobility about her that she wouldn't think that the most treacherous of treacherous things could happen like that.
Hmm. Yep,
Oh, if Hillary were running, Hillary would have seen it. Oh, for sure. She would have called it right there on the carpet. She would have said, Hillary would have seen it. And so many people hate Hillary. And she's a Scorpio, so I'm okay with her.
So
I
am I.
exactly. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes we're just misunderstood. That's,
Yes.
but I everybody makes mistakes. All of us, Bill Clinton, he certainly made his mistakes, but you know what? In the end, he picked up the slack and he transformed himself, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He turned into quite the statesman, you know?
Hmm.
So yeah, he like I said, power is intoxicating. It can touch any one of us at any time.
It's scary. But
Any
do
one of
you
us is susceptible to power just taking over like a virus,
mhm. Do
And
you see us actually leaving NATO, our country? I mean, that's a scary thought.
the first answer I'm seeing is no, but let me just see why.
Hmm.
Again, I'm seeing Zelensky and I'm seeing he's been given information by
Mm,
us, you
good.
know, under the table kind of thing, like here, take this, use it when necessary.
And I think the time is now, as you said.
Well,
Hmm.
I don't think we're waiting any longer. You
Hmm.
guys always ask me how long, how long, how long, and right now I'm seeing we're in it.
I think we are. We need it. We need a miracle right now.
We're in it, and like I said, Hillary and Obama, and that core group of people in the background,
You've been saying it for a long time now,
they have
and
been
it seems to be
working
coming true.
tirelessly because
Hmm.
they knew that this was a possibility. So I think they've been preparing all along.
Thank goodness.
And, we're going to see some of their efforts come to fruition
Hmm.
very soon here. I mean, we're in it right now. It's weird. Like last night, there was an earthquake here, and I was just like, "Oh my God, please don't make it." And it
Wow.
it wasn't very big, but it was. I was thinking to myself, "Not now. Like, pick another time, because right now, I've got too much stress with everything that's going on. Like psychically,
Hmm.
the stress is insane." Um, it's not just me doing readings; it's me picking up on everyone in the world, and it's hard for me to keep that out of my head.
Wow.
I have to literally keep it out of my head to go to sleep because so many people are, it's not just being scared, so many people are just, they're either leaving their lives and
Hmm.
they're just leaving all their stuff and they're moving to another country so
Yeah, I
that
heard you say that before.
yeah,
Hmm.
or they just, they're giving up hope that any type of life that we were taught to strive after, we're never going to have.
That's the magic word. We're giving up on hope. That's what's scary.
Well, and you've never heard me talk like that
No.
because I never needed hope. I believe too much.
Hmm.
So when you have a belief as strong as I do in the unknown,
Hmm.
you you tend to not need hope on a daily basis because I my belief is so strong that I don't need to have hope because I see, and what I see most always comes to, and yes, I did not see Kamala Harris losing and going through all that, but all of us were hidden from it. Most of us were, and the few that did see it,
Hmm.
maybe astrologers or whatever, a TikTok person here or there, a few
Hmm.
of them saw it, but they don't see all the rest of it and why. It was kind of like a one-off prediction.
Hmm. Well, thank you, Carla, because we need people like you to give us
Well,
the
I
faith.
mean, the daily grind and what we're going through now, and like the little predictions every day, and what's about to happen and why it's happening.
Hmm.
That's why it was hidden from us. Because if we had
Yeah.
all seen this, then it would have it may have turned out differently.
Right. We had to go through what we're going through to get to that end point.
Look, we
Hmm.
need to break down this consortium of power. Okay, that's just it needs to happen. And
Hmm.
it needs to happen for humanity at the base level of humanity,
Right.
you know. So
Wow.
so if this is how it needs to happen, just hold on
Hmm.
to those people you love and you tell them every minute that you can how much you love them and you do stuff with them and you know
That's
and
it.
and it's not about the rest of the world, it's about that.
We still have to live our lives. Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
um I hope some of these things that I'm saying are helping people and not scaring everybody to death. But um, because that's the other side of doing these podcasts is that if I see stuff like this, where's my responsibility towards
Hmm.
am I a fear monger? Am I just spreading fear? And I don't think so because I'm giving you tools to go around it. You
Well,
know.
I don't know about anybody else, but I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you so much.
Well, sometimes knowledge is power as long as you know that you're not a victim of the knowledge.
Hmm.
You have it to hold on to so that when
Yes.
stuff happens, you don't feel like you can't explain what just happened. Now you have at least a semblance of an idea of why this is
Mhm.
happening, you know?
Yep.
Um, let's take the next question, but thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Carla.
Miss Pug Lady, hello.
Hello.
Hey, hon.
Hi,
How
how
are
are
you?
you?
I'm good. So what haven't we covered? Because
Um,
we've said shocking things tonight. So
I want to know if they're going to be making any moves on the LGBTQ people, especially transgender, because they've really been taking a hit lately. And I have family members who it could be affected.
let me take a look at that. And you're talking about Trump and his
Yeah, the way
government.
they've kind of made it a target, the DEI, taking away the DEI, the inclusivity. Are they going to ramp up going against these people? Do they have to worry?
Let me look. Just relax. Let me see. Well, I get yes and no. I get that they will on as a national statement, but they'll leave it at the state level for the state to decide what to do. So some of this will be just to make a blanket statement on the national level. Again, you're worried about something that, you know, if the timing is working out like I'm seeing it, that will not become a big issue because stuff is happening right now to dismantle.
Hmm.
So remember that yeah, they're jabbing away at these individual little things and social security and people's livelihood and taxes and all that. Okay, so they're going after all these little things, but I'm telling you on the timeline it's happening now as far as
Okay.
the dismantling.
Okay.
So the things we're worrying about now will not even have a chance to come to fruition if what I'm seeing is true. Because I'm seeing that that's why they're working so fast on how many things can they do in a day, you know? How many
I don't want to know, really. I don't.
yeah, how many pieces of paper can we sign, and how many, you know, projects can we put forward, you know, in a day? I mean, they're going lightning fast, and the reason is because they know there's a short window on it.
Hmm.
They know. If you think they don't know that it's going to be short lived, they know they're not going to be there for 4 years. Everything that they had to scramble and get for themselves, they had to hurry up as soon as they got in the door.
Well, I mean, I'm not a Trump fan, and I would love to see Vance get his comeuppance too.
Oh, well, that's a different story. That's going to be another podcast, you know, but I don't think that I think there's going to be a whole reassessment, is what I see. Once this does get dismantled, I think there will be a national coalition of the top thinkers and scientists and delegates. And I think it will no longer be party lines and, you know, Democrat, Republican, Independent. It will not be that anymore. I think
Okay.
people will see the danger of division, and they won't care about that. I think there's going to be a King Arthur's round table with the knights. You know, it's going to be the top people in their field, and they're going to try to put all this back together again. Some of it will be damaged for good, and they're going to have to rebuild from scratch. But, you know, that happens in every civilization in history. You know, if you look back, it happened in every single civilization that was worthy of existing. So, you know, it's something that I should be worried, but I'm not, because I'm looking at it in an overview. You know, I'm looking at it from above it. So I see the reasons for why it's happening this way. And I don't get too concerned with it, because I know that this is necessary. It has to happen this way in order to make a concrete and permanent change. And this was the only way. Let evil rise to power, and then take it out. extract it extract it surgically, and you know, and that's sometimes that's the only way, because otherwise you're going to have this evil knocking at your door every single day if you don't let it happen that way first. I i think that there are enough, like, genius minds in this country and around the world that, you know, are already planning for how things are going to get put back together again when it gets to that point. I think there are already, you know, the finest minds in the world are sitting down right now and having that conversation. But we had to get to this point where it's not all about war and money and sex and drugs and, you know, prostitutes, and, you know, it's just, it's not about any of that. It's going to be about, you know, running a country should not be where there's a contest between two different sides to see who's going to win. It should be about, like, our country as one. But we sort of got away from that. Every time a civilization gets too far away from the mission statement, this happens, where the civilization crumbles and it has to rebuild. It's why we're here as souls. We don't come here for the, because it's an amusement park, we come here to do some good work and to elevate ourselves and the universal consciousness. That's why we're here. All right, so I'm done on my thing. I am not all knowing, but like I have been blessed with seeing things, so hopefully some of that has helped you guys. I'll I started a thread on this spaces earlier, so put your thoughts on tonight's while I upload this to the server and put it under that thread I started this morning if you have any thoughts about tonight's little podcast. But I will upload this for everybody to enjoy. And anybody have any additional questions? I want to make sure we get you all in here. Anybody else? No? Okay, you guys, I'm glad that we have each other. I am glad about that. But it's happening now. Don't look for this to be happening 2 weeks from now, a month from now, 6 months from now. It's happening right now. That's the message from tonight. Okay? All right, my little doves, I will chat with you next time. Thank you for stopping by for the live, because that's how this actually works best. And I will get this up. Let me know your thoughts in that thread about tonight's podcast. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk again soon. Good night, everybody.